Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interactions with the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries in cooperation with KNVA. Join us now for Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host of the program. Glad to have you with us. She comes from New Mexico. He comes from halfway around the world. And yet they want to communicate and know the joy of communication. On this program of Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about what it means to know communication between people of faith. Elizabeth, welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. You are of the Roman Catholic community.
Yes, I am.
And Arbon, welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue, my friend. Glad to have you on the program. And you are of the Islamic community.
Yes.
And on this program we want to talk about how do we communicate? How do we know the joy of communication? And you've done something about this. But first of all, let's find a little bit about you. Elizabeth, you're a PhD student at the University of Texas. What's your study?
Yes, I'm a graduate student, and I'm studying astronomy right now. And I've been here for, this is my 5th year.
And you find Austin an enjoyable place to live?
Yes, it's a very nice place to live.
And as you have studied astronomy, what have you learned about this huge universe, this creation that God has given to us?
Well, looking at it in a spiritual point of view, I see the amazing largeness of the universe. Just all of the stars and galaxies that just go on. I mean, the universe is a really big place, and God could have just made just Earth, and that would have been enough, but he didn't. He made a lot more than that. And for me personally, that shows me the amazing creativity and love he has for us.
Do you think, as you look, do you look through a telescope? Is that what you do?
No, I don't, but
how do
other people do.
Other people do, okay. Do you realize that God is communicating in this way, do you think, to humanity?
I think so.
I do too. I think it's a wonderful part of our faith is to see God the Creator. And Arbon, how about you? You came to the University of Texas when?
I came to UT Austin 5 years ago in August 2002. Yeah, and I came here to continue my graduate studies in physics. So I'm a PhD student in physics here at UT Austin, and that's what I do.
We have really been privileged to meet many of your friends within the Islamic community with whom we've shared dialogue, and we've shared all kinds of wonderful opportunities of growing together in faith. And as I thought about this program, the beginning of a new school year, it's September. Some people would say it's all about football. But
it's a season.
It is that season, isn't it? But I'm wondering if it's not only about football, if maybe it's also about faith and learning about one another's faith.
That's right.
At the University of Texas, there are a lot of students there, and there are a lot of people who want to know about God and talk about faith. So when you came, Elizabeth, you realized that there was an interfaith council, but it was mainly geared to whom?
There was a university interfaith council, and it was made up of the leaders of the various groups around campus. So various pastors, priests, rabbis, Muslim leaders, they were all associated with this group. And they would meet once a month to get together, to learn about each other. And they would also put on 2 events per year for the students. And when I went to the first of these events, I realized that this is something I would like to do on a more regular basis to really get to know about other people.
And so you decided on your own to start a university interfaith council for students.
Yes, I did.
And you were the first president of the organization, is that right?
Yes.
And now you've passed that on to Arbon.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and he's the man now to be president.
He's a great president.
Yeah, I can well imagine.
We learn from presidents.
Yeah, from those who will go before us, right?
Yes,
What do you want the University Interfaith Council to be about? Naturally, you're going to be visiting with one another about your faith, but what are some of the activities that you're involved in?
Activities, well, if I say first, the main objective of the UIC, University Interfaith Council, is just to provide a service to the students, to give to them the opportunity to come together and to learn from each other, so that at least they'll be able to learn much more about each other, and maybe possibly even more, they'll be reminded to learn even more about their own faiths. So, and among the programs, we have a lecture series which would be Exploring Faiths, where we'd have people of different faiths representing their own faith at different levels. It could be religious leaders or even believers from their own faith, and they would come and they would explain their own experiences to us. So this would be one kind of the programs. Other programs would be when we have panel discussions, where the people of different faiths, a representative from different faiths would come and will discuss a certain topic according to their own perspective.
Are you saying, Arban, then that you bring in people like Jewish rabbis would come in?
Yes.
Christian clergy would come in, and they would talk. Muslims would come in and talk and explain, communicate about their faith.
Yes.
Is there a question and answer period?
Yes, of course. I mean, at the beginning, a certain topic is given, and each leader would, or each representative would talk about this issue according to their own perspective, and later on they'll be open to the questions from the students.
Elizabeth, this is what you dreamed.
Yes.
And it's being carried out now by you and Arban. How do you get the word out to the university community that this group is there for them?
Well, it's pretty tricky, but we let the various faith communities know about us.
The campus ministries, is that
right?
A part?
And also there are a lot of groups that are geared towards students of various religions, so we let them know about us as well. We do general announcements to the entire student body.
And where do you all meet?
On campus, I mean, on different, I mean, university has very nice environment of having meeting, and they are very, how can I say, you have all the opportunities. If you need a room or if you need everything you need to organize, they are there for you. So even when it comes to advertising, you can advertise it through the university, and they are announced to all of the university. Whoever is interested, they are there.
Arban, you're a physics PhD candidate, and
yes.
you know, I'm always amazed at how this wonderful world we live in has become smaller. Technology, you young people, particularly with all the technology that you use, have really made the world smaller, and yet somehow people of faith need to learn to communicate, and communicate with a sense of joyful appreciation for one another. Yes. What are some of the things that you sense as people of faith, to young people of faith, what are some of the things that we might be able to learn from one another? If you, Elizabeth, were wanting to learn something from Arban, what would you like to learn about the Islamic faith?
Well, I think it's a very critical time in the history of humankind to do this, because, as you said, the world is getting smaller, and people of different cultures are coming together in a way that we have never come together before. So that was one of my motivations for starting this group. But in general, what I like to learn about other religions, as for example Arban, is how they view God or greater power, whatever they might call it, and what exactly their worldview is, how they see ethical questions, and how they perceive like the big questions like life after death, how the world was created, things like that. And I think that by figuring out those questions, we'll be able to understand each other a bit more.
Right. You know, all of that is so important what you said, and I'm wondering also, what about history? For people, Arban, you grew up where?
I grew up in Albania, which would be the southeastern Europe, and which was prior, it used to be a communist country. Right. And now, I grew up over there. Yeah.
And when you were growing up, you told me before we came on the air that for the first 10 years of your life, with the influence, or maybe the control even, we could say, of communism, that the mosques were not open. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, during the communist time, it was forbidden to believe in God, and it was funny that in 1991, a law passed saying that even the members of the Communist Party that can believe in God, and the people would find it funny because they would think that it's impossible. But all the churches and the mosques, they were all closed during this the communist period, and they were open just late 90, early 91, 1991. So the first 10 years of my life, there was no possibility of learning anything about religion, or if you'd be ever interested. So I was lucky to be young enough so that how can I say, at the time when at one age that you are really enthusiastic of learning anything, and if you learn something, you think you have reached the peak, the peak. And I would say that I was lucky that just by that time, it was a time where the religious leaders, they would be very energetic in teaching about the different faiths.
So when you would walk around your community, and you would see that the mosques, for instance, would be closed, no one was allowed to go in, is that right?
In fact, there was no mosque. I mean, there were no mosques that you'd see, and there was no possibility for someone to go there. There was just only one mosque in Albania, which was just kept as a museum, because it had a very nice architecture, and the drawings and the paintings were very beautiful. And that one also was closed. No one could get in. So there was no mosque that you'd see the mosque and you'd ever think about going in.
You know, Elizabeth, you think about growing up in New Mexico, going to Mass regularly, I would imagine. That would be a part of your life. And then you think about this young man whom you've met here now at the University of Texas and on this Interfaith Council, that the two of you would come together. This to me is just an amazing story in itself, and provide leadership regarding the faith issues of life. You mentioned ethics and values and worldview. But what really strikes me is, in order to get that conversation going, we need to know something about history. And I really like to hear about your history. And I think our viewing audience in Austin Faith Dialogue wants to know about a young man who, for the first 10 years of his life, there was no house of worship to go to. When it opened up to you, you were just a kid still.
That's right. I mean,
did you start going to the mosque?
Yeah, I mean, when you are at that age that I started to go to mosque or learn more about the religion, it's not an age that you start putting all the arguments on the table and comparing and analyzing. But it was just, I mean, you start learning, and you continuously find it more exciting. And as you get older and older, that's when you are more at the level of being able to compare, or how can I say, to think more critically. I mean, as the years were passing, I really noticed, I mean, in several aspects, I noticed that really, I mean, it was the right way, just in the aspect that for every issue...
You noticed what was the right way? That God was the right way? Is that what you're saying? That you could learn the truth that way?
As I was learning about the faith, I mean, at least about my religion, I would say that the things that mostly that strike me mostly was the idea that for every problem, for every issue, there was a law, there was a rule.
There was guidance for one's life.
That's right.
Yeah, I just find this really fascinating, because I've known Arbonne for a while, but to get this perspective, this is part of your history that I really didn't know.
That's right.
And Elizabeth, we want to talk a little bit more about your history, and then a little bit more about where you see this University Interfaith Council going. But we want you to stay with us in Austin Faith Dialogue, because we must learn to communicate with one another. We must learn to respect one another and appreciate one another. And in doing so, there'll be a joy in all of our lives. So stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. I got so excited talking during the break with Elizabeth and Arbonne about their history that I want to invite you into it. If you were not with us in the first part of the program, Arbonne was talking about growing up in a country, Albania, where the Soviet Union was in control, and no places of worship were open to any of the people.
Right.
And we want to pursue that more. As you went to the mosque, you learned about this word that helped you, gave you guidance for your life. And did not take away from your intellectual, because you said that you were very interested in science and math, which has continued to this day.
That's right.
And we're going to go a little bit further, but let's get Elizabeth in on this story. Okay, here's the young lady growing up in New Mexico.
In New Mexico, yes.
And of a Roman Catholic family. And so it'd be regularly that you would go to Mass.
Right. I was raised a Catholic my entire life.
And what was it about your faith that brought you a real sense of God's presence?
Well, I always tried to wrestle with God in a sense. Always, whenever there was a teaching presented to me, I would always, really figure out why the Catholic Church told us to believe that, and that's been an experience to really make me strong in my faith and to bring me closer to God, and also just the personal experience I know with God through praying and going to church and through people I know has really brought me closer.
And yet, like with Arbonne, it has not taken away from your interest in the world, the universe. It hasn't made you less of a thinker?
No, not at all, no. I was actually in Catholic high school that I first had my comparative religions class when I first started getting interested in various religions.
And in that class in high school, is that the first time you heard about the Islamic faith?
Well, it wasn't the first time, but it was the first time that I really was being able to learn more about these faiths.
But you don't feel threatened by another faith, is that correct?
No, not at all.
And actually, Carl, when you were saying about this, the way of thinking, whether you'd be restricted as a faith in the way that you think, I would say that as it was in my case, it was more challenging because in my faith in Islam, I mean, the way that the problems are solved, or whatever the problem could be, social or jurisdiction, the way that you put the arguments or the way that it is being argued is so challenging. It's so natural and so, how can I say, argumentative. So if you read something about how the problems are solved in Islam, you really get a way of solving the problems, and you really know that it is the simplest one and is the best one. So at one point, even some people would even think that if you give this problem for solution to a little kid, he would find a better solution than an older one.
When you went on to the university, where did you go to college?
I graduated from a university which is in Ankara in Turkey. Where I
so you went from Albania to Turkey to study.
Yes.
So you left home. How far is that? I don't know the geography well. So how far were you away from your childhood home?
The distance was around 2,000 kilometers.
Okay. So it was quite a distance. You didn't go home every weekend?
No. I mean, and just to have an idea, Europe, the countries in Europe are much smaller. So I mean, 2,000 kilometers could be very, very close for US, which is a great country, but it was pretty far away, considerable.
And when you arrived at the university campus and you're going to study physics,
yes.
Did you want to continue then in your faith journey, learning more about your faith?
Yes, I mean, apart from this one, I was also interested in learning about people of different faiths. And at this point, I would say that I was not completely, how can I say, unfamiliar to people of other faiths, because in Albania we have Roman Catholics and we have also Greek Orthodox. We don't have many of the other denominations that are here in US, and most of them I would hear for the first time when I came here. So I would know mostly about the Catholics and the Greek Orthodox and some Russian Orthodox, but apart from the rest, I didn't know much. And I knew no Jewish, so that's also something new, that I would see more Jewish in here. And yeah, so I was interested to learn more about the people of other faiths.
But I think that's very important again for our viewing audience, because there is this, with some people of faith, fear that if I learn too much about you, maybe I'll want to become a part of you. And the whole idea of learning and respecting and appreciating other faith traditions seems to be an exciting part of the communication that you all are doing.
Well, there's a point that different factors that make the people different, I mean, would keep them at a distance. Religion is one of these factors, and religion at times it has been the, how can I say, one factor for causing wars and clashes and everything. And at this point, it has been misused by a lot of people. And the point that, and at times the people of different faiths have come against each other. The reason for this one is that they don't know anything about each other, and they have ignorance, and they have a lot of prejudices.
You think that prejudice is rooted in ignorance? Is that what I hear you saying?
It is. So for this reason, in order to remove all of this ignorance and prejudice about people from different faiths, that's why I was more pushed to do this work, or at least to be involved into the interfaith activities. And I would say that, how can I say, when two people hate each other, or when two people have prejudice against each other, it's the fault of both of them. So if someone wants to learn something or is afraid of me, I first attribute the mistake to myself. I say I was not very good into introducing myself, or in explaining myself. But at the same time, if I take most of the fault on myself, I still attribute a little, small. I think that also the other person in front of me has to do something about this one. So
there's a responsibility for both.
Yeah, it's a responsibility for him to come and learn something. It's not all of my fault. I agree.
And I think that's what you and Elizabeth and others are doing with this University Interfaith Council. Now, one of the things that you have happening, and when we view this program in Austin Faith Dialogue, it will have already started, is the holy time of Ramadan. What does that mean for you as a very devout person of the Islamic community? What does Ramadan do for you? And Elizabeth, do you know anything about Ramadan?
I know a little bit, yes.
And it would be interesting, I think, for you to tell us a little bit about what that means for you.
Ramadan, not only for me, but for all Muslims, is the month that everyone is waiting, expecting for 11 months. So for 11 months, everyone is waiting for the next month of Ramadan. This is so, it's a chance for everyone to, to worship God more, and the rewards are much higher than you do in normal times. And what makes it different from all of the other months is that we have to fast for 1 month during the day, so we restrain from eating and from some other activities during the day.
From sun up to sundown, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So during this time we don't eat, and as I said, this is the the most joyful time of the year for Muslims.
Well, now, Elizabeth, when you hear this wonderful young man say that, most joyful time for Muslims, I have a question in mind, and the question is, I don't know if you have a question in mind, but as a Christian, I want to say, why is this such a joyful time? My goodness, you can't eat all day, and you don't even drink. Is that correct?
That's right. No smoking, no drinking, no eating.
Well, we don't have to worry about the smoking. We're not interested in that anyway. But eating and drinking are pretty important.
Right. Yeah, but I'm thinking.
So, what is it? Why is this such a joyful time? And again, in the context of our communication, you are doing something for yourself and for others.
That's right. The joy is that at first, it's a tool to get closer to God, because if you go if we leave just the food alone here, there is this idea that everything that we have, everything that we got is given from God. So we have to remember this one. Even a family, you may have 2 or 3 sons. These sons, one day God can take them. So it's a reminder that everything is of God. Also the food, which you can easily eat it, we have to remember that it's from God. And abstaining from food for a certain amount of time is just to remember that there is also to remember how important is
I hear him saying, Elizabeth, and please jump in on this now. What are you hearing? But I hear you saying everything is transitory. That you can, family can be gone, food can be gone.
Money.
That ultimately, all we really have is God.
That's right.
And that faith that God has given to us. Elizabeth, as a Christian, what is being communicated from our bond to you when you listen to that?
Oh, I hear that everything comes from God, and just reminding people like Arban and people like me that we have to appreciate what comes from God.
Will you and the University Interfaith Council, will you have any type of activity during Ramadan?
Yes, we're going to have dinners, Ramadan dinners on campus, where there will be, we have the dinners, we'll break the fast together, and during the time of this on September, it will be, the fast breaking time is around 7:30. So we're going to have one, actually there's another student organization that organizes most of the dinners, but we're going to have one co-sponsoring one with Islamic Dialogue Student Association, which will be on during the month of Ramadan, October 10th. And this other student organization on campus, they are organizing more dinners. They have also another one on September 20th. And other than this one, there are, with other friends or people of other Muslims on campus, there is also another Fastathon, which is one of the largest activities on campus organized by Muslims, where thousands of students, they would fast only for 1 day. It's organized by the Muslim Student Association. And apart from this one, we have also another event which is also in large scale. We are organizing the annual, this is mostly organized by Institute of Interfaith Dialogue. And
that's a good organization, by the way.
Yeah, they are also, involved a lot in the interfaith dialogue here, not only in Austin, but most of the southern states.
Institute for Interfaith Dialogue, because we want our viewing audience Some of their leaders have been on Austin Faith Dialogue, but we wanted to hear about that. That's a fine organization.
Yeah, Institute of Interfaith Dialogue, they have been organizing for years the annual Interfaith Dinner, and this year is going to be again on September 30th on downtown.
And if people want to attend that, they are invited to come to that, right?
That's,
they just need to call ahead and make a reservation.
That's right. So, I mean, it's an event that RSVP is needed. Yes. And for this year, we're going to have the president of UT, the new president of UT, William Powers, as a speaker at the event. And we expect that most of the speakers that come to the event, or let's say introduce the event, there will be, we have had as a speaker the old president of UT, mayor of Austin, people from state, from the, let's say, from the city, and
now this would be for the institute, but this is not for what you're doing for the council, the Interfaith Council. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean,
that's two different things.
This would be, I mean, if I need to clarify this one, this would be some volunteer work that we might do.
That you would be involved in, yeah.
During the month
Elizabeth, Arbonne has been talking a lot about the Ramadan and the faith of the Islamic community. What do you, as a Christian, what do you bring to him from your faith community and your experience?
Well, being a Catholic, there are a lot of misunderstandings about Catholicism. For instance, a lot of people have approached me saying that we worship Mary or that we worship the saints, which isn't true. So I like to clear up things about that. And as far as Christianity in general, I like to bring the idea that our religion is all about love. That's what it's centered around, the love that God actually came down and became human. And that's, if you think about it, that's quite an amazing thing for Jesus to have done that.
And you know, that's one of the things, you in the Islamic faith, you respect Jesus and appreciate Jesus.
Yes, I mean, that's, I mean, not only, we as Muslims, we believe that Jesus is a prophet of God, as it was Moses and Abraham, Noah and Adam. So that's the way that we believe in Jesus. But and there is some things that I wanted the Christians or people of different faiths to know about Islam, is that in the Quran, some of the chapters, there would be a chapter about, which is titled Abraham. There is also a chapter which is also a prophet, that we believe him as a prophet. There is also a chapter which is called Mary, so Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Well, what we're going to have to do is have you back and have you talk some more about the Islamic community. As you continue your PhD studies at the University of Texas in Arbonne, we wish you very, very well. Thanks for coming and sharing your faith and what's going on with you and your life and your faith journey. And Elizabeth, just delightful to have you here on Austin Faith Dialogue. And you've shared your faith, and as you continue your graduate school studies, we wish the very, very best for you.
Thank you.
And as the world becomes smaller, we learn that we have to communicate with one another. And we learn so much by listening to one another and realizing that as we respect, appreciate, and admire one another, we grow in our awareness of God's presence in our lives. A blessed Ramadan to you. Thanks for being with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Points, leading Obama by 7 points. The big question this week for us in the panel, will John Edwards hold that lead and win Iowa come January? Katty Kay.
This is such a mean question.
It's mean, that's why we do it.
Iowa's going to be tomorrow by the time we get through this.
Who will win there? Will Edwards win?
No, I don't think he will.
I think Edwards might win, but the real big question is, will Iowa matter that much? And I'm saying it won't matter that much.
If Edwards wins, it will be by 1 or 2 points. And we're going to be looking at who places second and who places third.
Howard, are you going to stick your neck out on this, baby?
No, I have no idea, but he's in a tough position because if he wins, he's going to get half credit. If he loses, he's done. That's a very tough position. He took all his organizers out of Nevada, which is another early state, which is probably not a great idea.
I think the media is going to be looking for a new story. It could be John Edwards. Thanks to our great roundtable, Katty Kay, Rick Stengel, Gloria Borger, and Howard Fineman. That's the show. Thanks for watching. See you right here next week.